Hello, thank you for joining me. Today is another episode of largest town in the county without a railway station, but this one is going to be a little bit different because firstly, we're not in a county, we're in the Isle of Man, and we're going to go to the largest town on the Isle of Man without a railway station. And also this episode is going to break a few of the rules I've set out for the usual ones to qualify. So normally, to qualify as the largest town in the county without a railway station, it has to have, or not have rather, a national rail station or any form of tram or metro service. So a couple of towns which don't have a national rail station but would be disqualified would be Cheshire in Buckinghamshire because it's got the Metropolitan line, Oldham in Greater Manchester because it's got the Metrolink. So here on the Isle of Man there's no national rail. There is of course the Manx Electric Railway, the Isle of Man Steam Railway, Snaefell Mountain Railway and the horse trams in Douglas. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the largest town not to be served by any of those. Right now I'm just walking along by the harbour in Ramsey, the third largest town on the Isle of Man. Normally in these videos I'll go as near as I can to the town by train, and then sometimes I've walked because it isn't always that far, or catch a bus. The reason I'm starting here in Ramsey today is because I happen to be staying in Ramsey and it seemed to be the most efficient way of using my time because there's other things I want to do today as well as going there. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to near where the Manx Electric Railway terminates, but we're not catching the Manx Electric Railway, we're catching a bus to Peel. That's the largest town without a railway station. So the way it goes, Douglas, largest settlement, only city on the island, largest. Then it's now, apologies if I don't pronounce this correctly, I think it's Ochin you say it, which is to the north of Douglas, almost seen as like a suburb of Douglas. That's the second largest place on the Isle of Man, mainly residential. That's served by the Manx Electric Railway. And then of course you've got Ramsey, also served by the Manx Electric Railway. So you've got those three towns served by the Manx Electric Railway. Of course Douglas is also served by the Isle of Man Steam Railway. We've got this long swing bridge to cross now. Luckily, if the swing bridge is open, I'll probably be missing my bus and I'll be stuck here. But the tide's out, so I don't think I've got to worry about it being open. That building over there, the scaffolding on, that's about the only high rise I think there is on the Isle of Man, the only building I've seen sort of block of flats with more than a few floors. So there's the harbour looking out to sea, that's looking east. Somewhere over there would be England. I came over on the boat from Heysham yesterday, so I suppose if you like, the nearest national rail station, or the national rail station I used to get here was Heysham, but that's not in the video. I don't know, there might be some others slightly near as the crow flies, but not really practical for getting to Peel. Anyway, I'm going to cross the swing bridge. A bit of work going on, that's why this road is currently closed to vehicles. I'm going to go and find the buses and I'm going to get the bus to Peel. Behind the buildings over there be the Manx Electric Railway Station. I was hoping to quickly show you that, but unfortunately I've run out of time because the bus goes in about 5 minutes and it's an hour to the next one. But what I have found is the bus station. So over there, that might even be my bus. I'm going to catch the bus route 5. It does go to Douglas, but it goes via Peel, so it goes the long way. So I'm looking forward to that ride. As I said, Ramsey is served by the Manx Electric Railway. It was also once served by one of the other narrow gauge railways, but a different route. And the bus is going to follow most of that route, which just avoided Peel. That's there was a junction station. That's all going to be subject of another video. So right now I'm going to go over to the bus station. I'm going to find my bus to Peel. And just in case anyone was wondering what this footbridge is about, because someone watching may think, what's that about? It's just there. It's nothing to do with railways, it's for the Isle of Man TT course. So when that's on, obviously you've got motorbikes going at quite high speeds. Not a good idea to be crossing the road, so that's why there's a footbridge. Anyway, let's go and get on the bus. I have arrived in Peel, and it was a really interesting journey following the route of the old closed narrow gauge railway. Now I'm going to have a look around Peel. So I just got off the bus there, not that bus because we saw the bus we were on just pull away, one of the other little buses. There is the cathedral. So although Douglas is the main city, the cathedral for the head of the diocese of Man and Sodor, we'll talk more about the Sodor bit in a minute, is here in Peel. Peel might not have a railway station, looks like it might have a police station though. Let's go and have a look at the cathedral. I just walked past the board to the cathedral and I realised the diocese is actually written Sodor and Man, so just so we know that. Now, it's a bit of an interesting one because most of you think Island of Sodor, isn't that where Thomas the Tank Engine is set? You're right, it is. Is it a real place? That's another very interesting question. I don't quite understand the exact how it works that there is this place called Sodor, but the Reverend Aldry basically thought, well, it's like it's the name's there, but the place doesn't really exist. So the Reverend Aldry created the Island of Sodor to set his Thomas the Tank Engine series in. Not many authors do that. I can only really think like Tolkien did it with Lord of the Rings to set Middle Earth. Yeah, Middle Earth was where Lord of the Rings was set, and then Reverend Aldry, Isle of Sodor. Rather nice garden in front of the cathedral. Bit of a maze here. So, as for the Isle of Sodor, then is it a real place? Well, in a way, yes, because there is, if you look on a map of the Island of Sodor, there is the Walney Island, and that is just off Barrow-in-Furness, and that is where supposedly the Island of Sodor is. They do talk about the other railway, that means the railways, the British railways, which sometimes are featured in like locomotives like Diesel. He's not one of the Fat Controller's locomotives, he comes to help from British Rail. So the Diocese of Sodor Man exists. Here we are at the Isle of Man, and the Reverend Aldry basically decided to create out of Walney Islands. There's a place called Vickerstown, which you look at a map of the fictional Island of Sodor, but also if you look at Walney Island, you'll see Vickerstown is on both of them, so that's a real place. So it's a bit of a funny one, and a bit of a tangent from this video, and by the way, I'm just walking around this maze. So it just fits in though with this whole thing about towns not having a railway station. I'm not sure what the largest town on the Island of Sodor would be without a railway station, but as it's fictional, it's probably not going to be a future episode. I do intend to do this though, largest town in each British county without a railway station. Like I say, Isle of Man is a little bit complicated, it's a bit different because it's almost like it's a little country in its own right. I won't be doing this for the Channel Islands because there are no railways, so it'll be a little bit pointless, nor am I going to do it for the counties of Scotland like Orkney and Shetland, which don't have railways. Anyway, I'm going to continue following this maze. When I get to the middle, I'm going to go and have a look inside the cathedral. We've almost made it to the middle. As I said a moment ago, let's go and have a look inside the cathedral. Here we are, outside the cathedral. The reason I posted some pictures rather than show you around inside was because they were playing the Lord's Prayer in various different languages, and then there was music in between them. And although I was the only one in there, it just seemed inappropriate to walk around and talk to a camera. Ooh, there go the bells. I think that's 10:15. So that's the cathedral. One final footnote on Thomas the Tank Engine. Although obviously I've talked about the Island of Sodor and everything, and Sodor and Man being a real diocese, in Thomas the Tank Engine various vicars are mentioned. The engines sometimes have to take the Vicar's Sunday School on outings. Although those vicars are fictional, their boss would have been the bishop in this cathedral, so it's nice, you know, to have sort of been to the cathedral, which is like the cathedral for Thomas the Tank Engine, or the vicars featured in Thomas the Tank Engine, should I say. I'm going to now go and have a look around the town. Now, of all the largest towns in the railway station we've been to, or one of them was a village, so if we call them largest settlements without a railway station, firstly, it was nice to be able to go in there. It's the first time we've had a cathedral as their main church. Normally we just have a look in a church, or sometimes we don't because they're not open. So once again, it was great to go inside. But Peel is the smallest one I've featured so far. It's only got a population of 5,700, like I say, being an island. It is all a little bit different from the usual one, no network rail stations, etc. So this is the smallest, largest town without a railway station I've been to. I'm going to now go and have a look around this smallest town, because although it's small, it's probably a very interesting place. So let's go and have a look around here. I'm now just walking through the town centre. Lots of narrow streets, lots of sounds of seagulls. I'm heading down towards the sea, and hopefully from there we might be able to see the castle. Whether I'm going to visit that today, I haven't quite decided what I'm doing yet, but as we turn a corner, and like I say, we are just walking through the town centre. Just want to give you an idea of what this largest town on the island about a railway station is like. It does have the feel of actually, now I'm here, being a much bigger town than it is, although I said it's only got a fairly small population. So far, most of the towns I've been to have been commuter towns for either London or Bristol. Just the way it's gone with the series. This is obviously, like I've said, quite different. We have a ruined church here in this area, which I don't think is quite a town square. And sometimes I'm not quite sure. You sort of see cars, if they don't indicate, you're never sure where they're going to go. Anyway, this road here is Castle Street, so that's where the castle will be. As for the cathedral, the old cathedral, I understand, is up at the castle. I'm now just walking here into this ruined church, the old St Peter's Church. You can see the tower, the cruciform shape of where the church was. So just to give you an idea, this is the town centre. Quite pleasant really, because you can come and sit here, have a cup of tea. I'm going to perhaps go and find one now. Across from me, like it said, haven't found the castle yet. Found the Peel Castle Hotel, so it has a very pleasant atmosphere in the town centre. I'm going to go and get a cup of tea now, I think. As I wind my way down towards the seafront, where, like I say, we'll get a view of the castle. One thing I like about this town is, and there's a nice smell in here, there's all these flowers and all these buildings and houses with flowers out the front. It just really adds and just makes the town a lot more pleasant. Look at this, look. All these hanging baskets on the walls of this house. There's another church there, the Grace Baptist Church. I also walk past the Methodist Church, having been in the cathedral, so it seems generally a very pleasant town to come and walk around. And I know I keep saying it is pretty different to towns I've been to. As this series progresses, we may well visit some other seaside towns if they happen to be largest without a railway station. But they probably won't be quite like this. Heading down now towards the harbour. And then once we've had a look at the harbour, I still haven't got myself a cup of tea, by the way. I got carried away with walking down here. Of course, soon there'll be the Isle of Man TT, and there's a lot of motorbikes. The bus actually came along the TT course. There's a pub there. It was later on in the day. I'll probably go there and have a drink. And here we are. This is the main promenade. I think where this reminds me of a town I've not been to for a long time, but it just has that look about it. It's a nice beach here as well. Reminds me a bit of Aberystwyth. Just this kind of beach and thing. Yeah, it just reminds me of Aberystwyth. Anyway, over there, that's Peel Castle, and I understand that is the old cathedral. So what I'm going to do, there appears to be a little cafe there. I'm going to now go and have a tea or coffee, and then we'll go and find the site of the old railway station. Got myself a coffee from the kiosk just over there. Lots of Manx flags flying. One thing I've noticed on the Isle of Man is they seem to have the largest litter bins ever. And that's about 4 or 5 times the size of your average litter bin. Just notice they all seem to be really big. I suppose though, if you think about it, I can't see any litter around, so that can only be a good thing. Anyway, I'm going to sit down and enjoy this coffee now and look out across the bay. Here we get a rather good view of the castle, and I probably will visit the castle in this visit to the Isle of Man. Whether I'm going to make a video, I'm not sure at this stage, but if I don't, maybe one day I'll come back. But that's the castle, and like I say, it's got the old cathedral in it. We look across this way into the harbour. The railway station was just up there somewhere, so that's where I'm going to go now. I'm going to walk beside the harbour to find the old railway station. I just walked up the harbour, castle's still behind me, and here's the old railway station. It's this building here, not the building behind it. That's the House of Manon, which is a museum, which again I might visit off camera during this visit to the Isle of Man, but I'm not going to go in there today. It sounds very interesting, I think, but yeah, it's not going to be in today's video. But if you are coming to Peel, it certainly would be worth a visit. So this is the front of the railway station. Like I said, the platforms would have been just behind it where the museum building is, but this is it, the station. So you would have bought your tickets, probably gone in through there, and the platforms would have been behind the railways, like the surviving section of the steam railway, 3-foot gauge. So yeah, it says Station Parade. We'll go under, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but it does also say it in Manx, which I think is nice. You know, they keep the Manx tradition and language alive. So there we are. Yeah, I can work out that probably means station. So Station Parade, and below, that's how it's written in Manx. So like I say, this is the original entrance to the railway station. I'm going to go around behind and we'll see where the platforms were and everything. Nice little plaque here. So there's the House of Manon Museum behind me, and the railway station platforms would have been here, what is now a boatyard. So where trains once waited for passengers, it now seems boats wait for their next trip out onto the water. And I have just spotted something, a little bit of a giveaway. It was once a railway station. There's a water tower. Ignore the big chimney behind, that's not part of it. Cars are dithering, so yeah. That building there, that is the old water tower. So that's where steam locos would have taken water before making their trip back to Douglas. This line wasn't electrified. The Manx Electric Railway and Snaefell Mountain Railways was and are electrified, and to my knowledge they haven't closed any of the electrified railways on the Isle of Man. They might have shortened bits at each end, but they haven't. There's been no full-scale closures, just the steam railways which have closed. Well, and the unfortunately the horse trams have been cut back, which is a bit of a shame, but I'm going to leave that negative thought because here's something a bit more positive. We seem to have found some railways and even a carriage. And yeah, look, Peel Station, the end of the platform, just about still exists. And there's also a little museum. Whether that's open or not, we'll have a look at that in a minute. The Manx Transport Museum, it's very small. Talking of stations, behind there appears to be a power station. I know there's one at Douglas because I've seen it from the train. It used to have a cooling tower. It's since been rebuilt, doesn't have a cooling tower. I can just see power station there, and I can see those sort of what you call mini cooling towers. So there's still a power station here. And of sorts, there is still a railway station here. I think we should we go up onto the platform of this railway station where we're not going to go anywhere. So yeah, there's a old carriage body, give you an idea, and you can still travel in carriages similar to on the steam railway. Just have a look through the window. So he's using that as a bit of a storage place. So that one is full of boxes. Right, let's jump down here. Got a good look at the water tower and the signal. So apparently it's the smallest museum, and it features these cars that are actually built here in Peel, which I recognised when I was doing my research. I saw pictures of them. Unfortunately the museum isn't open, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, sometimes just how things are sometimes. And then across the road, that is what's left of Peel railway station. The one final thing to talk about is, will the railway ever return to Peel? We're looking off down there towards the power station, and it is a footpath, so you can walk along it, and I might just do that when I finish this video, and that'll be a different video. So you can walk to Douglas. As for will the railway return, probably not. It's not impossible, just probably won't happen. They did talk about reopening part of this railway at one point and having like a park and ride on the edge of Douglas and running shuttle service in to Douglas. Now I'm not sure what kind of vehicles they would have used for that shuttle service, whether they'd had some modern trains or not, but that didn't happen. Whether they'll ever reopen to Peel, in theory it is possible. I just don't think it probably would happen, but it'd be great to think it would, to, you know, make Peel so it is no longer the largest town in the Isle of Man without a railway station. It could be done. They could even, you know, build some modern rolling stock, and they could sometimes run steam trains up here, and sometimes run, you know, you get DMUs running on sort of meter gauge lines in places like Corsica, and there are places where they do have quite extensive narrow gauge lines. I don't think it would really be worth trying to build it in standard gauge, because probably the whole track bed everything would be too small to accommodate standard gauge, and there never has been standard gauge in the Isle of Man, so that'd be a bit pointless. But I think like I say, it could be rebuilt. It might mean knocking a few buildings down, but then when they reopen the Waverley route in Scotland, they knock down over 60 modern houses. So just because the building's built on an old track bed, that doesn't mean the railway can't be reopened. The main thing is money and everything, and I don't think it's going to happen, but my point is it's not impossible. It could happen, and I think it would be quite well used. People would travel, because Peel is a really nice town. If you are coming to Isle of Man, do come on the bus to Peel. You don't have to go up to Ramsey to get the bus. There is a direct bus, or you can walk along the old railway, like I might get out to. I haven't quite decided what I'm doing after this video. So it's possible, but probably not going to happen. So here we are. We're at what's left of Peel railway station, the largest town on the Isle of Man, which doesn't have a railway station. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm not sure where I'm going to go to next, but I'm going to go to another at some point. Largest town in a county without a railway station. It will most likely be back in England. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please do subscribe and share. And from Peel Station, goodbye.